All right, guys, welcome in. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. It's time for total bases. Someone in the comments was like, Trig, you wear the same shirt every day. And I was like, well, yeah, it's like, it's our logo shirt. Like, that's what they want us to wear. And then I said, you know what, Bryan, it's almost college basketball season. It's time for me to bust out all of my gear. So for whoever made that comment, I switched it up for you today. I showed up with the Grand Canyon University sweatshirt, and I'm ready to talk some baseball. Don't get that twisted. It is still very much baseball season. There's still a lot to talk about, and we got to keep talking about. I've noticed the Tigers fans that were in the chat for a long time have quieted down / left. I haven't heard from them in a while, and I wonder if that has to do with the fact that they no longer lead the AL Central, something that I truly just did not think was possible, even knowing that the Tigers would not probably replicate what they did in the first half and the second half. I still never thought we'd see this day with the teams that are chasing them, but the Cleveland Guardians do it again. Tariq Skubal is not Mark Burley. He can't make that play through his legs, and it all went off the rails. Guardians win. We have a tie at the top of the AL Central, and these two teams play each other again today. So we got to go right to that game. Start us off, Tigers Guardians.
We got Flaherty going against Bybee tonight, and we're looking at about a 125 favorite on Bybee, and the total is 7.5. I was watching the Tigers broadcast. I always like to watch the visiting or the opposite teams of my favorite team, the Guardian, Cleveland. I like to watch the opposite team's broadcast. And when this game started, they were talking about how intense it was going to be and playoff atmosphere and the whole thing. And then when they took their 2-0 lead, they were talking. They go, "This is the team. This is the spark. This is the spark they haven't been playing with. I expect a whole different Tigers team now." Not granted, they're the local announcers. They're supposed to say that kind of thing. But when I was watching, I says, yeah, I says they got their best pitcher on the mound. He's throwing great. They're up 2-0. This is a team that could turn it around. Well, then after that, Cleveland dominated the rest of the game. And if I'm a Detroit Tigers player right now, and I try to put myself in the position of the players, fans, management, whatever, but to lose that game with your best pitcher on the mound, and now you've got Flaherty on the road. He hasn't been nearly as good on the road as he's been at home. I think this number on Cleveland is a little bit cheap. I had a really nice day yesterday. I went 4-1, and the only one I lost was our parlay, and that one ended up winning in extra innings. So overall, I've been on a really good run these last couple of months on being able to break these games down. And I think this is a good spot for Cleveland. They're still riding high. And to me, Detroit could be done. That was the game they needed. They talked about having to use Skubal the last day of the season. They didn't want to have to do that. But let's say Detroit continues on and wins, and they have to use Skubal that last day. You're really going to use their starting pitching staff in the playoffs at this point and trust them? I don't know. Unfortunately for everybody that was in the on the Tigers earlier in the season, just keep in mind this. I like this team going forward, but this has been a terrible collapse for them. Just the opposite of what they did last year.
Scary moment in that game for David Fry. As a guy, so by high school, I was pretty much that in ninth, and I was in there for my glove, Bryan. Once I got to high school, I was out there for my glove. I was batting ninth and pretty much asked to bunt regularly. And I had a scenario where I squared to bunt one time and took one. Let me tell you, I pretty much took it right off the lower region, and if it didn't slightly clip the inside of my thigh, I would have probably been in big trouble. No, I didn't have a cup on. I couldn't. I hated wearing a cup. I couldn't move around. No one ever really wears one. And that's what, squared to bunt. I was trying to square late to bunt for a hit. Ball thrown right at me, and what can you do? And that was we wish him the best. Very scary moment right there. But anyway, back to the game. My handicap is going to probably be the same for the rest of this series. There is absolutely no way I can touch the Tigers until they win a game. And we're getting into the territory of, it's almost like this collapse has taken on a life of its own.
Mm-hmm.
It's very Red Sox-esque from the year that they went into September with I think it was a 9.5 game lead. Ultimately ended up getting knocked out on the final day. Great memories of that's sort of a like you can remember watching the Evan Longoria home run that like barely made it around the foul pole that eventually knocked them out. That crazy final day of the regular season. That's what this feels like to me. So even, and again, I thought yesterday was the game that the Tigers were going to have to win. You had Skubal on the mound. It was all right there for you. Now you lose that game. I kind of wish I took my own advice and grabbed that Guardians division price.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up talking about it for 2 days on the show. Never bet it. You're sitting. You got to feel great about that. If you're sitting there with Guardians, plus 130 to win the division now, go with what you have ahead. Guardians minus 127 in this game. I definitely agree with them being favored. Again, same thing as yesterday. If this is May or June, I'm looking at this number and saying, well, that's some value on the Tigers right there, getting them, plus 116, plus 120 in a spot where I probably kind of make them closer to even money. But that all goes out the window here. That all goes out the window. This streak, in my opinion, the collapse has taken on a life of its own. And you just cannot bet the Tigers until they win one of these games. So Guardians are passed. Go ahead, Bryan.
Yeah. What made it even worse was it was a 9-inning game, so the Tigers had 27 outs. They had 20 times they struck out in that game. They're a team right now. When you have 27 outs as all white strikeouts, that's a team right now that is just confused. Something's in their head. Nobody looks comfortable when they come up to bat for Detroit right now. And as I said, as much as I'm a Cleveland fan, I hate to see Detroit choke like this. It's killed the fans, and but they've got better things on the future, I believe.
Certainly the one. If you're just a baseball fan, whether you have action or not, you got to have that one on. That is sort of the game that. In my opinion, for me, I don't know if I'll have a play there, but it'll be on for sure. Okay, I gotta go to the chat. I didn't know if we were definitely going to talk about this game, but now we're going to. Wolf Eyes Gaming TV. Mariners beat the Rockies. You were wrong. Trigger. False. I was actually right. I gave Rockies plus 1.5, which won, and I couldn't have been more right about the handicap for that game. McCade Brown was great. I teased this for 2 weeks now. I will say I'm kicking myself. I was telling Bryan Leonard before the show off air, I was like, Bryan, how many dollars do you think I had on that game outside of the little parlay? I had $0 on it. So I can't, I'm not going to come here and flex that pick by any means because I didn't actually give it out to clients, but I did talk about it on the show for a couple of weeks that you would see McCade Brown probably have a really good start before the end of the year. What did he do last night? 5 innings. 1 run, 2 hits, 10 strikeouts. So all of that upside we kind of saw in the minors, now that he wasn't at altitude, got himself into a pitcher's park, he was great. As far as the bet was concerned, my bet was Rockies plus 1.5. So yes, the Mariners did find a way to steal that in the 8th inning in a game that they were definitely never the better team. 3 hits. Mariners 4 runs on 3 hits. I don't know how the hell they won that game. But no, my play was Rockies plus 1.5. That play won. Couldn't have been more right about the game. But now that we're talking about it, Bryan, let's go to today. The Mariners sort of avoided the letdown, if you will. But does it make it? Is this whole series now, especially with how yesterday played out, the Astros end up losing to the A's? Is this whole series now kind of a letdown for the Mariners, in your opinion?
Yeah, maybe a little bit mood here. They're in really good shape. Now, I saw I don't pay a whole lot of attention, but I saw that the somebody, it could have been ESPN, so it could be something to take it with a grain of salt, but they had Seattle as the favorite to win the World Series right now. I don't know if that's right because I have 4 teams.
I got a quick question for you.
Yeah,
do you have them? Do you make them a favorite over the Yankees in the AL?
I make them the favorite in the American League.
Okay.
But I think there's 4 teams in the National League that are probably just as good.
Fair enough.
But Gordon's going against Castillo here. Castillo's huge favorite, as you would expect, about a 330 favorite. Total 7.5 here. Tanner Gordon comes in with a 6-run ERA, 5.51 expected, 1.46 WHIP. That's his real weakness. The one thing he does well is doesn't walk anybody. Last year, 3.8 walk percent. This year, 5.3, which is in the 93rd percentile. Well, if you don't walk anybody and everything else on your StatCast page is really dark blue, the best other thing he does is his hard hit rate's in the 33rd percentile, which isn't good. That tells me that he's got to throw a little bit more outside the get somebody to chase a little bit. Right now, his chase rate's in the 17th percentile. He's not a strikeout guy. His whiff rate's in the 3rd. Tanner Gordon is not a guy until he changes the way that he pitches is going to inspire a lot of confidence for backers of Colorado. And we all know how bad they've been on the road all year. Castillo, 3.63 ERA, 4.17 expected, 1.23 whip. The only thing he does really well is also the walk rate, 77th percentile. Fastball velocity, still got that. He's at league average for a righty at 95 miles an hour, but he only throws those 4 pitches. Yes, Seattle should win. Do I want to lay 330 on a team that may not need the game as much as they did just a couple days ago? No, I don't. So I'll be passing on this one.
Yeah. So another reason I was okay bringing this game up, in addition to just wanting to point out that I was right about yesterday's the way that played out and my leg of the parlay. But the reason I wanted to bring this game up was because I think there's some value to the over here. Where are we getting 7.5? I know it's Seattle. I know it's a bit of a pitcher's park, but I mean, Tanner Gordon's thrown it a little bit better of late. But I see 7.5s, and that usually implies that one of the pitchers that we're dealing with is elite. This isn't 2017. Like Luis Castillo, not an elite pitcher anymore. He's a veteran. He's going to go out and give you a good effort. He's prepared. I think he he holds up well in there, if you will. But I would not say that he's anywhere near the guy he really once was at some point, earlier in his career. And you look at you brought up the StatCast page, a lot of hard hit. Rockies have, they've had good at bats lately. Like that I did watch some of the game last night. I thought that they put together pretty good at bats. I thought that they could have probably ended up with more than 3 runs. Like I said, they had the 7 hits. The Mariners were the team that didn't hit last night. You go back over the weekend, they had I believe they took a couple of those games against the Angels, at least one of them. I know they won on Sunday. No, they did. They took 2 of 3 from the Angels, and one of them was a 7-6 win. So it's not like the Rockies are not sort of capable of generating some offense. Tanner Gordon was a bad AAA pitcher for me at one point. It's actually been sort of incredible to see what he's done over the past couple months. Like he's actually had some really good starts for the Rockies, kind of quietly, because anything the Rockies do is quiet at this point. No one cares. But he's turned in a couple of good outings. Now, I've watched this guy for a long time at Albuquerque. He's been down in AAA for the last couple of years, even some of this year. A guy throws mostly fastballs. It's like the Mariners, even if the Mariners don't care, they can still probably hit a couple long balls off and get to 4 runs. So I thought 7.5 was insane. Unless there's like a monsoon coming in from center field that I don't know about, I got to like the over 7.5 here. Go ahead.
Yeah, my park factors looking like it should be 8% lower than normal. The wind is blowing into the right slightly. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. This is something I appreciate you talking about, because I didn't even pay much attention to the total, but you were right. And I went back and I looked at the Colorado Rockies. This is their last three teams they had to play on the road. Seattle, obviously, we know this is a good pitcher's park, and Seattle's got some great pitching. San Diego, another team that's a good pitcher's park, and they've got good pitching. And then the Dodgers. So, yes, lately on the road, the last 3 or 4 games, Seattle scored 3. They've scored 6. They scored 3. They scored 4. So, yeah, it's not like a little bit earlier, like the week before when they were playing the Dodgers, and we know how hot the Dodgers starting pitching has been. They're not hitting bad at this point. If you get 3 runs out of Seattle, 3 runs out of Colorado, and Seattle's a 330 favorite, yeah, you would figure Seattle would score 5. So that 3 and 5 that's 8, and that's pretty conservative. So yeah, I think you got a good bet there on the over. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, and my number's not like way off market, but I make it 8.5, and I was surprised to see 7.5. And I just go back to almost every time you see 7.5. One of the pitchers, you're like, oh, okay, we're going to have to score off this guy. I just don't see that with either of these two guys. So, yeah, I do like the over there.
I pointed that out just a couple days ago, where it was the day when was only 3 games. And I said 7, all 4 of them are aces, 7.5. And I think they scored 11 runs in that game. So,
yeah, the game,
have the aces. I could see something similar in this one.
Yep, I believe that was Monday, and I think 2 of those 3 games went over. All 3 went over. All 3 games went over on Monday, Brian, because you ended up having extra innings to get that Padres-Brewers game to 5-4. So I think that one at least pushed. The other 2, 11 runs in the Cardinals-Giants game, and then the game I think you were referencing, right. Braves-Nats, 16 runs. So yeah, 7.5 too low there. That's a good bet if you're looking for a total today, in my opinion. Okay, we got to talk about this one. Titan CT. Big win for Titan CT yesterday. He's out there in New England. I was wrong about that game. Red Sox, huge result for them. And who knows? They may, if Garrett Crochet can do his thing here, the Red Sox may get to the playoffs, especially after the way that the Tigers played out yesterday. But suddenly the Blue Jays are up against it. They lose yesterday. They now have a 1-game lead on the Yankees. I know they're both going to the playoffs, Brian. But if the Blue Jays lose this division, I think they're done. I think that would be like very difficult for them to come back from. Like if they go from blowing this division and then suddenly that team's in like a 3-game set, that would not give me a warm, fuzzy feeling for the Blue Jays. So I really do think these games are massive. But they're going to have to beat Garrett Crochet tonight. And Max Scherzer did not get out of the first inning in Kansas City on Friday. So Red Sox, Blue Jays, do you have a play here?
Yeah, if there's anybody that wants this game to start now, it's Matt Scherzer, based on his personality and that start he had last time out. Crochet, the lefty, on the road against Scherzer. Crochet is about a 130, 133, 134 favorite. Total 7.5 to the under. Crochet, obviously, terrific pitcher. Have an outstanding year. 2.69 ERA, 3.01 expected, 1.05 whip. He does everything you want. He's had barrel rate is the worst out of all of his stats at 61%, so that's still better than league average. Yeah, he's a guy you want to back. Scherzer is got the heart of a champion, but his ERA is a little bit higher this year than it's been in the past. The last 2 years it was 3.77 and 23, 3.95 and 24. This year it's 5.06, expected 4.62. The problem has been he's been very inconsistent this year. He's either pitched well or he's gotten hit really hard. His barrel rate is in the first percentile, means he's been getting hit very hard. His ground ball rate, first percentile, I mean, he throws a lot of fly balls. And when you're getting hit hard on fly balls, unfortunately, that's not a good thing for the pitcher in those games. I expect him to come out and pitch very well based on the way he's done in the past. But from a game standpoint, if there's any value, I would prefer maybe Toronto team total under. Let's see what that is currently. Toronto is 3.5 under 35. That would be the way I would lean in this, but other than that, nothing at this point.
I knew the line was going to be something like this, but I will say I was a little surprised to see the Blue Jays be as big of an underdog as they were here. Like, just based on what, and I know you're dealing with, you have to, when you're dealing with a Cy Young pitcher in Garrett Crochet, it's going to flip the line considerably, but that is a striking difference from what yesterday's line was in this series. And obviously, again, I understand that Crochet is going to get that kind of love, but that to me is just too big of a overreaction, a move, if you will, for the Blue Jays to go from yesterday's game being like a minus 160 favorite to plus 120 at home in a game they very much need to win. So to me, the value here is 100% on the Jays. Like, and that's the other thing too. Yesterday was a great result for the Red Sox. It doesn't change my mind about the Red Sox. I still think that this team really lacks without Roman Anthony. They're a fade for me without Roman Anthony. I've said it for a couple of weeks. I think if they get into the playoffs at this point, it's going to be because other teams were worse. Other teams found a way to lose. I still don't think with no Roman Anthony, this Red Sox team to me is just not a playoff team. They're also not better than the Blue Jays. So again, maybe Garrett Crochet pitches you to a win here, which is, I mean, he's done it a million times, very possible. But I would not want to lay a minus 135 with the Red Sox after they won. Now the Jays need a win. They're only a game up in the AL East, and I still have the Blue Jays as the better team. Now, will they snap out of it here? I'm not sure, but sometimes for a team like the Blue Jays, sometimes seeing a guy like Crochet on the other side will wake you up a little bit. And that's been the thing with the Jays. They just have not hit. Bryan, what was the stat you brought up yesterday? They've been among the worst. What was the time frame? Do you remember?
Oh, from a batting standpoint?
Yeah, like I think WRC Plus was in the bottom five in the league. What do you remember the time frame?
Last 2 weeks, they're the 78, which puts them 23rd, right above Pittsburgh, the Angels, Baltimore, Washington, San Francisco, Chicago, and Colorado, all teams out of the playoffs. That's a concern. Cincinnati was the same way. I used Pittsburgh as my free play yesterday, and there was value in that. And you take a look at Detroit and Houston, and right above them is Texas. So all the teams that were supposed to be picking it up right now, they're not hitting it all. And that's where we get good value on betting teams betting against the teams that need to win.
Yeah, and the thing with Toronto, because I watched most of that series with the Royals this weekend. I aside from turning the 20-1 game off, like after it was like completely done, Saturday and Sunday I watched like every pitch of that Royals Jays series. I had action in those games, and the at bats were awful for this Blue Jays team. I mean, this isn't a scenario where they're getting unlucky. Like they are having horrific at bats. And now on Sunday, they did finally sort of like break through a little bit, got the offense going. For me, that was sort of a sign like, okay, like they finally started to put together a couple good at bats after like, maybe like a week or two of having awful at bats. They finally had a few timely hits, good at bats on Sunday. But then, of course, Monday's the off day. Yesterday, nothing. 3 hits, 1 run, terrible at bats again that whole game. So it's an interesting handicap because on one hand, now they got to deal with Crochet, who's filthy, but does seeing like an ace like that wake you up a little bit? Have you more focused? Because when the Blue Jays are focused and they're locked in, 1 through 9, they have as good at bats as anyone in the league. So it's an interesting one and likely a pass for me. Go ahead, Bryan.
Yeah, it's not as drastic as Detroit is, but it is a situation where Detroit and Toronto had a really good season going, and they're not used to winning the division lately. When Toronto took that lead, or would they have 3 games over the Yankees or whatever? Maybe they thought that was their goal. Their goal had been reached. They were the first place team. They were going to cruise into the playoffs. These teams that aren't used to being in this situation are showing that right now. And granted, for Seattle, they continue to win. But yeah, it's tough to if you're not been in that position and you're not used to that kind of pressure. It's tough on the human body. So I don't know if that has any effect on them. Maybe they turn around today and then sweep the rest of the regular season. But right now, like we talked about the at-bats, they're just not getting good at-bats, and now they're facing an awesome pitcher on the mound today.
Joe Dog says Trig is a sleeper. He knows, but for some reason he's a poker player on a baseball show. I like him. Well, first of all, thank you, Joe Dog. I appreciate that. Second, quick story here for me. That's kind of how I got into sports betting. I was obsessed with poker in high school. I graduated high school in 2004, so my high school years were the boom of like Texas Hold'em. Chris Moneymaker winning the main event in like 2003. I think Greg Raymer won the next year, and like it exploded. Suddenly that World Series of Poker was like much, much bigger than it was like in the previous years. And then I got to Siena, and I was skipping class and stuff, Brian, because I was on my computer just playing online poker for hours and hours and hours. My friends would be like, "Hey, we're going out." And I'd be like, "Yeah, I'll catch up with you later." I'd never catch up with them. I was just stuck in my room playing poker. And finally I was like, I got to have a little bit of social life here. So I realized that I could kind of channel that same energy into betting sports, but then I could go out with my friends while the games were on, right? Like, so I could have my social life. I could still sort of do the research, get my action, if you will, because I had no clue what I was doing at that point, and still have a social life. So that's kind of how I went from poker to sports betting when I was in probably like my freshman year of college. And I suppose the rest is history. So quick story right there. David, what we got to talk about, I know I'll get yelled at by someone if we don't talk about this game. David said Brady Singer stunk yesterday. And the Reds, they lost the game they needed. And not a great day for Reds fans, because the Diamondbacks walked off the Dodgers. The Mets found a way to overturn a big deficit and beat the Cubs. And so the Reds were the big losers in the NL race yesterday, losing that game to the Pirates. Today, they've got their guy on the mound. They've got Hunter Green, tremendous last time out. I think he threw a one-hitter against the Cubs to kind of spark that run. But he's up against Paul Skeens here. So what do you think? Interesting game, because the Pirates, of course, are out of it, but they have their generational talent on the mound. The Reds have everything to play for, and a comparable pitcher in Green. So how are you seeing this one?
Yeah, when I released the free play yesterday, I basically just said, I go, there's no way Cincinnati should be this big of a favorite. Sometimes it's as simple as that. And I knew that Pittsburgh hadn't been playing well, but hey, it's a pretty good rivalry, and they came out and scored enough to win it. And Cincinnati, it's just to say somebody needs to win does not mean they're going to win. But this is going to be a great pitching matchup. Skeens against Green. Green basically is about a 115 favorite right now, total 7 to the under. When I look at this, I know we're playing in Cincinnati, and this is a ballpark known for its offense, but I kind of like the under here. With the pressure on Cincinnati they're feeling right now, and Pittsburgh with Skeens on the mound, it's a game I'm going to take a look at a way to play the under on. Skeens, we know how great he is. His worst stat is hard hit rate of 57%. He's just terrific. Hunter Green, I'm glad he's really put it together. This is a guy, the last 2 years, 2.75 ERA last year, 2.74 this year. He's lowered his whip from 1.02 to 0.92. This is the ace we've been waiting for. The only problem is his barrel rate's in the 23rd percentile, average exit velocity 29th, hard hit rate 18th. And he's also a fly ball pitcher. His ground ball rate is the 9th percentile. But as we've talked about, Cincinnati has figured something out with these guys, and they could bring them in here now. And they're confident they can get them from avoiding the long ball. But Green has been hit. So we got two guys out there in this game that I think are just tremendous. I love both these guys. If you look at team totals, let's see what we've got here. Team totals in this game, Pittsburgh 3.5 under 130, and Cincinnati 3.5 under 130. It's basically the same general range. I would think that at least one of these teams is going to score 3 runs or less. We can pick that up as a victory by playing it under. Would not surprise me if both of them do it, and it's a 3-2 final. That's the way I'm looking at this game, looking to play the under some way in that regard. With the pressure of the playoffs, with these two guys going right now, the problem, Pittsburgh may just have Skeens pitch 5 innings, but Green's in there as long as he can go. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're looking to play it live, the Pittsburgh bullpen will likely be coming in before Cincinnati's will.
Bryan, I think there's a pretty substantial need to win tax placed on the Reds here. Yeah. I know that's kind of what you had made that point, but I guess I'm agreeing with the point you made. I think if this game occurs a couple months ago, I've got Skeens a slight favorite in this matchup over, Skeens Green, Pirates Reds. I've got Skeens a slight favorite. Obviously, the books are going to make you pay for the fact that the Reds desperately need to win. The Pirates, they were a team coming into the month that I was high on in terms of like what they would do in September. I thought they had played well going into the month. If you remember those first 3 games of September for the Pirates, they swept the Dodgers and we cashed with a couple of them. After that, they kind of just went off the rails. But hey, they've bounced back a little bit. Took 2 of 3 over the weekend against the A's, and then they now took the opener of this series. So I still think that the Pirates, listen, the Pirates haven't played a meaningful baseball game since pretty much all year. They've been out of it since May 1st, pretty much. So, and I go back to something you said on the show a couple of times, like Paul Skeens pitches for Paul Skeens. Like you made that sort of point, and I think it's a very good point because I think he is very much like he just competes with himself, if you will. Like he's out there. He wants to go out and throw a great game every time he steps on the mound. He's that type of a competitor. Last time out for Skeens was not very good. The Cubs got him early. I don't think he made it out of the 4th inning. 3 2/3, 3 runs on 7 hits. I feel like so I'm trying to find any sort of evidence of the last couple times that Skeens has given up a crooked number, or has given up 4 runs or more. It's happened, I think, 4 times this year, and I've got him in front of me here. He gave up 5 runs to the Cardinals on April 8th, came back the next day, 6 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts, no walks. You would have to go all the way to June, where he gave up 4 runs to the Brewers. Next time out, 5 shutout innings against the Cardinals. In August, he got knocked around at Coors Field a little bit. Next time out, 6 scoreless against the Reds, 8 strikeouts. Those are, and then, I'm sorry. And then there's one more at Brewers earlier in the month of August, or in the middle of August. Next start out, 6 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts against the Brewers, or against the Blue Jays. And that was when the Blue Jays were actually playing good ball. So pretty much every time he's been bad, the next time out, he's nails. It's like you will not find this year back-to-back starts where he has been off. And so I think the fact that he just did not pitch well against the Cubs and they got to him early, I feel like he's, we're so close to the end of the season. I agree with you. He might only go 5, but you're probably going to get 5 pretty good innings from him here. And I can't really make the Reds a favorite in that scenario. So a lean to the Pirates. I think it's a good value play. I also think the Reds might be a little tight after yesterday, but probably not something that's going to make my card. Okay. Carmine's here. Carmine's up checking out some bases early in the morning. I think we're going to the next sort of season of shows soon. So I'll plug. I want to plug Carmine and the boys because like Puck Time was kind of what gave me the idea for this show originally, where it's like they've been doing Puck Time for years. It's awesome. And I was like, we can do a baseball show like that. And so that's kind of where I got the idea for this show and what I hope to sort of carry into college basketball season. So shout out to Carmine and check out Puck Time as soon as when is hockey back? Did I see there's like preseason hockey, Brian? Is it back already?
I went to the Golden Knights game last night. I think we're roughly 15 days away from the start of the season. I think it's October 9th or something to that effect. But it's right around the corner. And I've been on Puck Time the last few years. I have a lot of success in hockey, as these gentlemen have had. And I really enjoy two of the nicest guys, Andrew and Carmine. I love doing the show. Hopefully he has me back on this year, but I'll leave that to him. Looking forward to hockey and getting in the mood.
Amazing that it's only 15 days away. I feel it's college hoops sneaking up too. We're about maybe probably more like 40 days away, but I know the opening day is November 3rd, and I am attempting to go to 3 games in that day. I'm heading down to Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm going to go to the Winthrop game at 8 a.m. They're doing like a marathon. It's the Field of 68 marathon. The games are going to start at 8 in the morning on opening day with Winthrop and Queens University, I believe, is the 8 a.m. game. And then I'm going to stay for the 11 a.m. game, which is Bradley and St. Bonaventure. And then I think I'm going to drive an hour north back to Charlotte to go to Indiana State Charlotte that night. So I'm going to try to do 3, hit 2 campuses, come back home the next day. So that's I'm fired up for that. Stephen Fallon, 2004. Yeah, no, that's when I graduated high school. Your boy will be 40 in July. So your boy will be 40 in July. He said, does that make you 12? No, I'm going to be 40 in July, and I feel very old. I messed up my back. I'm over here moving around. It's I feel like I'm getting there. All right, back to baseball. Tigers are officially dead. Well, Lou, we talked about that. I guess I agree. If you missed that, I suppose right now, since Tokyo Brandon's here, I should probably promote something. I have a 5% play tonight, Major League Baseball. Probably my last 5%er of the season. It's tough to find 5% edges once the playoffs hit. So, I've hit the last couple, and I really like the spot in MLB tonight. So that's up on my page. Anything for you, Brian, that's up for sale right now?
Yeah, first of all, the Blue Jays just got hit pretty well across the board. So somebody's put out an order on the Blue Jays. That's gone down as low as 120 now at Bet Online. I had a really good day yesterday. 4-1 in baseball, as I said. Unfortunately, the only one I lost was the one I lost in our parlay. But it's been just tremendous 2 months in baseball. I do have a 4% college football play up for Saturday. I'll be putting baseball up a little bit later. And as I mentioned yesterday, regarding hockey, we're putting up a special that if you buy the hockey season, you get the rest of baseball for free. So I don't know if it's up yet. If you don't see it, call the office. They'll work with you. Those girls do a tremendous job, and we don't give them enough shout-outs. But the girls in the office are really nice. They'll work with you. If you're trying to get two people for hockey or 2 people for baseball, whatever, they'll work with you. They do a great job in the office. They'll save you some money. But, as soon as we're done here, I'll continue to look at the games. And as opposed to yesterday where everything was on the evening card, we do have day baseball. Washington plays Atlanta at 9:15, and that's Pacific, and then Milwaukee, San Diego at 1 o'clock Pacific.
Yeah, the girls in the office do a tremendous job. You would think we had this like large customer support team, but it's like 3 of them, and it feels like there's like 8 people back there because it's like every request is answered. They deal with all of us, which is like a whole. They have to deal with the customers, and they have to deal with all the handicappers messaging them throughout the day to do their page. So yeah, no, they do an awesome job and don't get nearly enough credit. So shout out to the folks up in Detroit who kill it for us on a daily basis, who are all probably sweating the Tigers out right now as well. It's tough. And for Lou that in the chat, and for anyone that comes into the show late, this show is always up on demand on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. So if you want to hear us talk Tigers Guardians, we already did that. And you can go to the Wager Talk YouTube channel, watch the show on demand. And while you're over there, hit the like button, maybe subscribe to the page. It does help us tremendously. Danny says customer support have saved me thousands. Yeah, if you message, you usually get they're usually going to give you a discount coupon. So just little inside right there. Probably not supposed to come out and say it on the show, but typically if you message in, there's a little coupon code that goes around with that. So yeah, if you're trying to buy one of the longer term packages, which we obviously very much appreciate. So back to business here. We still have to lock in our parlay, but we got 20 minutes, plenty of time to do that. Let's get to more. You know what, Brian? Let's go to one of those day games, because if I don't talk day games on a day where there's day games, someone rolls into the chat after the fact and is like, "Where's all the day games?" So we got to give them one of the 2 day games. Do you have a preference as to which one?
Well, the Milwaukee San Diego game is closer in to pick them. That's probably
let's go there. Let's go Brewers Padres.
Right. The Brewers, even though they lost that game yesterday, the coach came out and he was very disappointed about the way they played. He's just been a tremendous coach. One of the better coaches in baseball. I love that guy in Milwaukee, and he's a bigger guy, and he eats pancakes out of his back pocket during the games. Gotta love it. Patrick's going for Milwaukee against Cease for San Diego. Current line's maybe about a 130 on San Diego. 8 to the under on the line. Patrick's getting the call up. Chad Patrick on the season. He's 115 innings in, and he's 3.66 ERA, 3.89 expected, 1.28 WHIP. But when you look at his StatCast page, even though the numbers are really good, he's not really outstanding in anything. His best thing he does is probably his strikeout percentage in the 62nd percentile. Does throw 6 pitches, but basically throws his cutter, his sinker, and his four-seamer pretty much 90% of the time, 87% of the time. So basically a 3-pitch pitcher, but he does have a couple others that he does show once in a while. But he's had a nice season, but when you break it down a little bit more, maybe not as much as what those numbers deserve. Dylan Cease, somewhat the opposite. He comes in with a 4.64 ERA, 3.48 expected. So you would think he's due for some good correlation, but it really hasn't turned out that way. He's got a 1.32 WHIP, walk percentage in the 21st percentile, ground ball rate 23rd. Luckily, he's pitching in San Diego as his home ballpark. Not that great of a home run hitting ballpark, but his whip rate's still great, 94th percentile, strikeout rate 88th. But something's just gone differently wrong for Dylan Cease here. The whip it was 1.42 in 2023. Last year was only 1.07 through 109 innings with a 1.07. That's good. That's great. You got to have it under 120 though. And it's at 132. That is a concern. I probably back Cease too much this year going on his stuff because I really like his stuff. And I've gotten burned a little bit. He comes in with an 8-12 record. So an 8-12 record when you got a playoff team in the Padres means you're laying some juice. So I've lost money on Cease this year, so it makes me a little bit reluctant to play on him. So I'm going to pass on this game and watch it. Just try to learn something out of the way Milwaukee's finishing up the season. I expect them to finish it up the same way they played all year. That's just the way they've been taught, and that's the way the team feels. So I would expect a good effort out of Milwaukee here, but not quite getting the number that I would prefer. Right now the highest on the board I'm seeing is like a 118. I would probably need at least a 125 before taking Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's how I see it as well. Chad Patrick, not someone that is going to jump off the page stuff wise, but what I will say about him, because he's been up in AAA for a while, like couple seasons, and he's now gotten to the big leagues a little bit. He's so consistent. He's like the type of guy that will probably be in this league for a long time in some capacity, because he gives you the same effort every time he steps on the mound, pretty much. And that's kind of what I would prefer in a game like this, where the Padres could lose their juice a little bit. I forget what the let me just pull up what the NL West looks like with the Dodgers losing yesterday. Because, of course, the Padres clinched their spot. I guess they're still playing for the division. So I'm not going to say that they still have plenty to play for. They're only a game and a half behind the Dodgers, but they clinched their spot. Dylan Cease has just been so hit or miss. I think you kind of talked about this ahead of his last start. And then the White Sox tagged him for 4 runs. And I think he actually took the loss there. And it's just like, he still shows up and will have that really good outing. That's like, get you back to being like, oh, this is what we expect out of Dylan Cease. But there's been so, if he's a hit or miss guy, there's been so many misses this year, right? Like those blow up starts are not few and far between. I mean, you look down his sort of, list of starts this year, because he's made almost all of his starts. There's a lot of 4 runs over 5 innings, 5 runs over 4 2/3, 6 runs over 6 innings. Like that is almost as many as those as there are the 7 shutout inning gem. So it's like, yeah, I don't, he's not a guy I really want to back at this point. And to your point, the Brewers, I do think you're going to see the Brewers want to like play well and finish the season strong. They really have done that all year. They come in 3 straight losses. And if there's a guy I want in a letdown type game, it's Chad Patrick, because I just feel like he's the same guy every time he steps on the mound. So I'm with you, slightly into the Brewers. I think I need a bigger price to ultimately get involved. All right. Do you have a game that you want to use for the parlay, or have we talked about it already?
Yeah, I'll use it. I'm taking a look at Kansas City and the Angels. Had Kansas City as one of my plays yesterday, and then on the 4-on-1 day. Kansas City right now is at 79 and 78. They're not going to the playoffs. I got a less than 0.1% chance of making the playoffs, but they can have that winning record. I talked about it yesterday with Miami. Miami's now won 10 out of the last 11 games. Don't sleep on these teams just because they're out of the playoffs. They want to have a winning record. I like the Kansas City side here. Steve, well, let me get to the line on it. Right now, we're looking at Kolek against Kikuchi, and the Angels are about a 120 favorite, and we've got a total of about 8.5 to the under. I like Kolek. He's pitched 2 seasons now in the majors. He's only got about 153 innings, but he's 8-6, 4.05 ERA, 1.26 WHIP. It's not a guy I'm going to reach out and try to bet on, but he's got his barrel rate is in the 85th percentile, walk rate 73rd, ground ball rate 88th. Now he's not a strikeout pitcher at all. He's got 6 pitches, and basically his 4-seamer is 1 mile an hour less than a normal right-hander. He only throws at 26%, which is what I like. He goes from his sweeper at 7% all the way up to his 4-seamer 26%. So he's got 6 pitches that can come at you at any time. That's what I like. Kikuchi and the Angels. Kikuchi had that nice start to the season, but right now he comes in with a 4.05 ERA, same as last year. 4.56 expected, 1.45 WHIP. That is what's really hurt him this year. His extension is good, 80th percentile, but other than that, everything else is in the blue. I think because of the name, Kikuchi gets a little bit too much credit. And if you look at the Angels, they've lost 9 of their last 10 games. Do you really want to trust them as a favorite here? With Kansas City trying to get that winning record, I like Kansas City here. I'm going to take them. It looks like about plus 105, and that'll be my part of the parlay.
Yeah, I'm actually very surprised they're an underdog here. That's one I kind of maybe sort of pushed to the side on my initial sort of go through games and stuff. Like, it's probably been through the board twice at this point, and that one didn't jump off the page to me. But now that we're kind of talking about it, it's actually 10 of 11 after yesterday's loss. So the Angels have now lost 10 of their last 11 games. I'm going back in my head to a couple weeks ago where we sort of talked about this Angels team and then likely to run out of gas, because if I go back to the beginning of the season, I remember I did a little show with Bryan Power on opening day. We kicked around some of the opening day games. And I remember the Angels playing the White Sox on opening day and me sort of being like, hey, you're looking at this wrong. The White Sox are not the worst team in the American League. It's the Angels. That was my sort of big sort of statement. And that I was wrong about that. The Angels for 5 months played their tails off. Like for this team to have sort of been on the fringe of like that wild card race for as long as they were, when you realize like what is on their team, like obviously a lack of talent, in my opinion, it's actually amazing they sort of hung around as long as they did. They have completely run out of gas. This team, like we said, the 10 of 11, their run differential this year is minus 152. I don't think that gets enough attention when you talk about the Angels. And I think it's because they were in it for so long, or at least like on the fringes where it was like, Bryan, this team was actually a buyer at the trade deadline, if you remember. They like went out and got guys because they were like 3 games out of a wild card spot. They're now 17 games under 500 and have a minus 152 run differential. So again, yeah, you're right. Kikuchi's getting a lot of credit for the name. You know what? I the other reason I probably kind of glossed over this one too, I wasn't a huge Stephen Kolek guy when he was with the Padres. I will say I like what I've seen from him a lot more since he's shown up in Kansas City. And sometimes that happens for pitchers. Get him a new pitching coach, give him it might be a different philosophy on pitching, and suddenly it clicks. So maybe that's what's going on with Kolek, but he's been better since he's gotten to Kansas City. So I think you've got this one correct. I think that's the right side.
Yeah, I watched when they played Cleveland. The announcers actually talked about. They said when he came here, there was one pitch he didn't have any success with. They said, "Why are you still throwing it?" So that's why I can't remember what pitch it was, but just that one simple thing can turn it around for some of these guys.
Yeah, it happens. Look at Quinn Priester. I mean, Quinn Priester couldn't ever figure it out in Pittsburgh. He was basically like thrown away by the Red Sox. The Red Sox were just like, get out, just leave. Like we don't even, I don't even think they got anything for him. He ends up in Milwaukee, and he's basically been in their rotation all season. So yeah, you just never know. But it's definitely interesting, and Kolek certainly trending as a guy that might be very undervalued, considering like he's still obviously being judged on all that time in the Padres organization. So great call right there. I kind of agree on that one with you. Let's see. I don't know what I'm going to use for the parlay yet, but we can squeeze one more game in. Let's talk. Let's go back to that Cubbies series, because that was one. I did a video yesterday for Cubs Mets. I did give out Cubs minus 105 as a free pick in the video. And were you surprised that they took Horton out after 29 pitches? Because I didn't think that was going to be the case. But clearly, go ahead.
Yeah, he I guess he pulled a muscle or something happened to him. It was an injury situation.
Oh, he did. Oh, so that could be. I mean, I see that was one where I had some other stuff going on. I was actually very invested in the Jacksonville jumbo shrimp around that time, and what Mets Cubs was on the other TV. So yeah, that is, well, I mean, that's something we should probably address here. Them losing Cade Horton would be a massive loss for that. That team doesn't have a ton of pitching as it is. So this becomes a very interesting game, because the Mets ended up sort of cooking through their bullpen to come back and then eventually close out a 9-7 win. The Cubs ended up needing 6 innings from their depth guys, because Horton only went 3 innings and he got taken out of the game. So now we're in what's the wind doing in Wrigley today, Bryan?
Yeah, it's blowing in from left field. They've got a 19% chance, or excuse me, 19% less runs being scored in Wrigley than normally. So the wind is blowing in. It does have an effect. And we're looking at Tong against Boyd here. Boyd, the lefty. The Cubs were about a 120 favorite, total of 7. I've been trying to fade Boyd for a while because of the innings situation. Many more innings than what he was expected to pitch. But like you said, they don't have a lot of starters right now that they could trust out there. So he'll get in, I'm assuming, a 5 and fly. They've already locked themselves into the playoff spot. But the Mets need to win. And, one of my games I used yesterday was the Mets. I just thought that the value was there on them, and it didn't look that way when I'm watching the game and they're down, 5-1, 5-2, something like that. But they got hot one inning and fought their way back. Now, is that what is the turning point is for the Mets? Who knows? They've got Tong on the mound. Struggled early on, but as we talked about last time, I thought all he had to do was just keep it a little bit lower on the top end and keep it a little bit higher on the bottom end, and he'd have success. And that's what he did. A big strikeout game for him last time out, and he looked really good. Does it carry on here? Possibly. The Cubs have not hit well since the All-Star break, and they've had to deal with some key injuries here. So if I play it, I'll take the underdog Mets, but should be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, with the wind blowing in, I think you gotta lean toward the Mets. I think that helps Jonah Tong. I sat right behind home plate or close to home plate for his one start here in Syracuse. If he missed, it was up, and he kind of got away with a couple of very long fly balls in that game. The game he didn't get away with the long fly balls was the Reds game, but that was also at Great American Ballpark, which we know can yield the home run, maybe more so than some other parks. Wind blowing in at Wrigley is favorable because, if it was blowing out, I'd say, okay, he's going to probably give up a couple bombs. But if it's blowing in at all, I think that sort of turns Wrigley into a more pitcher-friendly environment. And I think that's ultimately will benefit Tong. Now, I don't know that I want, and that's sort of what the total suggesting here. I'm seeing 7 flat on a total for this game. So if the wind was blowing out or they were even concerned with it blowing out at all, that total wouldn't be 7 flat. Do you have the first 5 odds right there, Brian?
Yeah, I'll check that for you.
I'm curious of what Mets plus a half run is for the first 5.
All right. Okay, the Mets plus a half is about minus 135.
Yeah, that's a little more juice than I would like. But again, it's an option. I think Mets money line first 5 is an option. They're both. I don't know that I want a part of either of these bullpens today because the Mets used some key arms yesterday. The Cubs used some depth, but I do think I like the Tong over Boyd matchup here. So I think if I was going to bet this game, it would lean toward the Mets, and I may look to try to isolate the first 5 and just basically take Jonah Tong over Matt Boyd. We are
plus 110 plus 110 on that first 5 if you're interested.
Yeah, that's in my opinion, you're probably getting the better of the quote unquote coin flip there. I'd rather have Tong right now over Boyd in the first 5, and you're going to get plus 110 for it. That seems like a decent bet in my opinion. Tell you what though, I know what I'm going to use for the parlay. I'm going to use that over out in Seattle. I still think that's probably a run to a run and a half too low. I'm not going to rehash it. We did the full breakdown on that one. But as I sit here and sort of scan the options for the parlay, I think it's wild that's only 7.5. I would have expected at least 8.5 there with the 2 starters that are on the mound. So let's go with that. I still see minus 110 for that over too. It's not even
110 pretty much across the board, upwards of 120 at FanDuel and some of the public places. But yeah, it's about even money, minus 110 either way.
All right, so nice little 2-teamer today. We get a side and a total, and it pays close to 3-1, which is not bad for 2-team parlays. So Bryan Leonard's going to be on Royals plus 105. Full game money line, and I'm going to use the Mariners Rockies over 7.5. So nice little 2-teamer plus 291 odds. We got Royals Mariners over 7.5, and I have Rockies Mariners over 7.5. Rockies Mariners over 7.5. Bryan has Royals plus 105, and that'll do it. 2-teamer, hopefully a winner. Even with yesterday's loss, which was a little unfortunate since your Marlins came back and won that game. They didn't get us there in the first 5, but they ended up coming back. Not only did they cover the plus 1.5 for the game, they came back and win it in extras. But we end up losing the parlay, still plus 5.14 units, or for every $1 is returned $5.14 since April. I'm going to continue to harp on that. I cannot believe, I mean, I guess I can believe it because like we should be winning. Like that's our job. But like we're firing 3-teamers and we're ahead since April, playing a 3-team parlay essentially every single day. So Turnbuckle Tommy, why would you expect 8.5 at Mariners home? Go check out the replay because I went into detail as to why I think that game isn't over. And then again, if you missed any part of the show, head on over to the Wager Talk YouTube channel. It's always on demand. While you're there, drop us a like and a subscribe. I've got a 5%er in MLB tonight. Keep an eye out for Bryan's. I don't know if it's up yet, but that's a great deal. Rest of Major League Baseball season into hockey. If you are into hockey, probably won't find a better deal. Because you get the whole MLB playoffs and then right into the hockey season. So, check those things out on our respective pages. And it'll be the two of us again in the morning. Our guy TB is on his long trek back to Tokyo, which he told me is on the way back is much worse, I guess. For him, I guess it's worse going back.
15 and a half hours, I think he mentioned. I can't even imagine.
He was saying it's like, and he kind of like loses like a whole day, I guess, going back because of the way the time's set up. So he'll be back on Friday. So if you're wondering where TB is right now, he is I believe his journey back from Las Vegas or from Phoenix to Tokyo starts today. So we wish him a safe travels. We'll see him on Friday. We'll see the two of us. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning, same place, 9 a.m. Eastern. Have a great day, everyone, and cash some tickets. We'll see you guys in the morning.